All right, go ahead.
So, Ralph, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Yes, I believe the first item of business is to have Delta go over the strategic management plan final drafts. I believe they were sent out to everybody some time ago. I'm not sure who we have with us. It's with Delta.
Anybody here from Delta?
All right, well, that takes care of that.
Yeah, let's move on to the next item. If they show up, we'll come back to them. As far as I know, we have some extra work this work session as well with Airbnbs.
Well, that's in the regular meeting.
It's in the regular meeting, okay? Because the way I read the email, it was going to be part of this.
It's right on the agenda. It's in the regular meeting. What we are expecting is a presentation from CNET. I did get a message that they're ready to go.
Okay.
If we are.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
CNET, Cindy, we're ready if you are.
The productive work session. I guess CNET's not quite ready.
I guess not. They were listed as a second item.
I doubt that Cindy will jump on until, oh, there she's going, right, she's coming in now.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we're admitting her right now.
Oh, Cindy.
There she is. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, hello. I was watching you on YouTube, and it appeared your first presentation wasn't there, so I went ahead and logged on.
There we go. Good job.
We're jumping around because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's all yours, Cindy.
Okay, very good. I'm going to share my screen
Excellent.
here. How does that look for everybody?
That's fine.
Good.
Terrific. Well, thank you for allowing me to come tonight and give my annual presentation. As I'm sure you all know, the borough is wonderfully represented on the CNET Board of Directors by your assistant manager, Don Holderman, and he is here this evening. But I'm going to take the helm of the presentation tonight. So I just wanted to sort of recap for you what the last year has looked like for us. As I'm sure you all know, of course, virtual meetings were our norm in 2020. There were some different variations on hybrid configurations that developed over the course of the year. You know, while covering Zoom meetings and covering in-person meetings are sort of you know, the way that is the most convenient and the best way to do things. Hybrid meetings really do provide a lot of very obvious audio and video challenges. So that was a big challenge for us over the course of the year, was adjusting to various hybrid configurations that came along, and we're still sort of adjusting to that going forward. As you know, the university basically told students not to come back as of March 11th, not to come back from spring break. So we lost all of our spring interns last year on March 11th, and we went forward in the summer and fall of 2020 with only 2 interns for each of those semesters. We did produce, with our very small staff, 451 programs last year. That's about a decrease of 6% from 2019, which I think is to be expected. And finally, we did gain a new member in 2020. The University Area Joint Authority, UAJA, became the newest CNET member in January of 2020. The franchise agreement that everyone had worked so hard on between Comcast and the Central Area Cable Consortium was signed by Comcast last January. The consortium, of course, is made up of the 6 municipalities of the Center region, along with Bellefonte Borough and Benner Township. That is the makeup of the consortium. The franchise does include a subscriber pass-through of 32 cents per subscriber per month that all Comcast subscribers in those 8 municipalities see on their monthly Comcast bill, and that does come directly to CNET for our capital needs. That is referred to as a PEG fee, PEG standing for Public Education and Government. And we began receiving that quarterly PEG fee in about May of 2020, and we do receive it quarterly now. There was a refresh of our website last year. We think this has resulted in a cleaner design with easier access to the online programs. There's an orange button right in the top third that takes you right to the video player. There are individual playlists on the home page of the website. And I have that second red arrow pointing there to the link that says See All, so that people can very easily access the Bellefonte Borough playlist. And then finally, both Channel 7 and 98 are both streamed live on the website and very easy to find with the new homepage. So just to review your programming from last year, there were 23 council meetings and work sessions, and then the borough did sponsor 1 meeting of the Spring Creek Watershed Commission for a total of 24 programs. So in 2020, Bellefonte Borough sponsored 4.7% of all of the programs by all of our member organizations. And that figure was 4.9 in 2019. So really, really very, very close to your 2019 sponsorship. This graph shows you the number of programs you've been sponsoring over the past 5 years. Again, very, very consistent, somewhere between 23 and 25 and a half programs per year. If you look back over the last 5-year period of time between 2016 and 2020, the borough sponsored 4.89% of all of the programs by all of our members. And amazingly enough, that 4.89% is identical to what it was in 2015 through 2019, so exactly the same percentage. The reason, of course, why that 5-year period of time is important is because the funding formula is derived from looking at the last 5 years. And so the 2016 through 2020 programming statistics will determine the borough's dues to CNET in 2022. And this is just a graph of all of our members in that 5-year period of time. And I have that red arrow pointing there down to Bellefonte Borough at 4.89%. The highest bar on the graph is State College Borough. They have been the largest user of our services since our founding in 1987, and then with Center County Government in second place. To remind all of you, the Borough Council meetings, of course, can be viewed on Channel 7, our government channel. They are televised after a Monday night meeting, Wednesday at 9 p.m., Friday at 2 a.m., Saturday at 8 a.m., and Sunday at 4 p.m. And of course, the meetings are now streamed live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which is CNET Center County. On the website, cnet1.org, both of the channels are live streamed, and the programs, of course, are also there to watch online, on demand. The agenda items are chaptered, they're clickable, and we keep those programs online for a minimum of 12 months. We are also available to view on Roku, the set-top box, and the streaming stick. People just simply should search for PEG TV and look for our logo. And finally, we are also available on the set-top Apple TV box not on Apple iPhones, but the Apple TV set-top box. So as many of you know from hearing me say this so many times, I'm not ever able to give you any programming data when it comes to cable TV views because the cable companies consider that proprietary information. What I can give you are statistics of how many people are watching your meetings online. So I broke it down there for you. In all of 2020, January to December of 2020, the meetings on cnet1.org received an average number of 107 views with a median of 101. On YouTube, it's an average of 39 and a median of 31. And in the first 4 months of this year, on cnet1.org, the average increased to 117 per meeting with a median of 89. And then YouTube was an average of 49 and a median of 26 for the first 4 months of this year. It's interesting, particularly on cnet1.org, that the average number of views really increased in the first 4 months of 2021, but the median decreased. And it appears that your April meetings, for whatever reason, received really an unusually high number of hits. And so the average went up, but the median actually went down a bit. On the horizon for CNET, now that we are receiving the Comcast PEG fee funding that secures our capital purchases for at least the next 10 years, that has the effect of really providing stability for our member financial contributions, our member dues. We're looking at increasing our presence on over-the-top platforms. Amazon Fire is another option that's available to us. The board is looking at developing an update to our last strategic plan. And of course, we will be continuing to evaluate various adjustments that we will be making, made necessary by virtual and potentially hybrid meetings. So that concludes my presentation. I did want to leave you with my final slide, which is what 2020 looks like to us. And I'm sure it looked like to a lot of you as well. So I will stop my share. There we go. And I'll be happy to take questions if anyone would like.
I just have one, and that's if we're going to go to hybrid meetings next month, how might that work with you?
Well, that's a great question, Joanne. The challenge with hybrid is that for years and years, the concept of a hybrid meeting was that everyone needed to be able to hear people who were attending virtually. And the people attending virtually, for example, via a speakerphone, needed simply to be able to hear everyone in the room. Now that people are looking at adding the video component to that, it complicates things a great deal. It is not impossible. There are organizations that are making significant upgrades to their meeting rooms. I know that the Center Region COG is doing a real overhaul of the technology in their meeting room. And I think the bid on that package was something in the area of $48,000. Now, I'm not suggesting that $48,000 is what is necessary. I'm simply saying there are different approaches to sort of upgrading a meeting room to be able to facilitate that. There are other organizations where, with the right amount of manipulation, we've been able to bring in some devices that can aid in hybrid meetings. But every meeting room is really different, and every audio situation is really different. For example, there are a lot of meeting rooms that have an installed audio system that we take the audio from. Well, that setup is very different when arranging for a hybrid meeting than it is in a room such as Bellefonte Borough, where there is no amplification system in the room. So I wish I could just give you the answer. I can tell you that we're very willing to work with the borough, you know, to the extent that we can, to try to make some sort of hybrid meeting possible. I will tell you that it is challenging. It is challenging, but it can certainly be done.
So if we were to make a decision this evening to go hybrid, it would be helpful if Ralph or Don got hold of you and we tried to figure out how to make that best work here.
Well, very clearly, you know, they can go back to the old style using the speakerphone and people calling in. That can be done, no problem. The problem is going beyond that and adding the video, which is where it gets much more trickier.
John?
Cindy, anyone with CNET working, is there a possibility that we can be setting in the conference room and be using our PCs as our both microphone and video device? If we have people sitting within a foot or two, do we get a feedback problem or will that function?
That is, again, one of the challenges is we're talking about having audio coming out of a computer with Zoom, for example, and then getting into a loop with microphones in the room. These are probably questions that are best answered by Matt Burns, our production manager. Matt would need to work with your staff and potentially your IT people in seeing what was feasible. It's relatively easy to project on a screen a Zoom video feed, but the challenge becomes everyone on the Zoom hearing everyone in the room and vice versa without all of that feedback.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm wondering if we can use the Zoom to avoid the shortcomings of the PA system within the meeting room. I'm thinking like when you're dealing with a meeting where you're dealing with real-time translation, where the people are talking into the computer, and then that's being fed to all the other meeting attendees as it's being translated to them. I mean, what I'm basically saying is we would be doing the meeting on Zoom while we would be sitting in the same room. And then all the recorded video and all the recorded audio is then fed to you, and you're going to assemble it to, for broadcast.
Yes, and I understand. I want to say that I wear a lot of hats at CNET, but in terms of working out specifics of potential production, I think it's probably a conversation that needs to happen between your staff and our production manager. And I think that there are ways that it could be done, but there are going to have to be some workaround solutions.
Okay.
I know you guys don't know me, but I just want to answer his question since I run the Board of Trustees meetings at Penn State, and we just did a hybrid meeting. You will run into a lot of feedback using that. If you're multiple people using computers in the room and microphones, the feedback's going to come on like that.
Okay.
So I just want to throw that out there for you real quick.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk, we'll work that out.
Thank you.
My feeling is we do one or the other. No hybrids. moving along.
Other questions for Cindy? Yes, Doug.
Not to belabor that, but I noticed that Patton Township College, they've all done hybrids of Zoom or people coming in on Zoom with people in the council chambers.
Right, so,
It didn't seem to be a problem. I know.
okay, so Patton and College have integrated audio systems that amplify in their meeting rooms, and so different arrangements have been made there. Now Half Moon Township does not have an integrated audio system, and they've always had just a few. They have a very small board. They only have 5 elected officials and a manager. They generally have about 3 people, 3 to 4 people physically in the room, and other people have attempted via Zoom. And Matt has been able to work out a solution with them. This is part of why I say that every room is so different in terms of the demands of it. Yeah.
Right, I got you. We've had that problem with the airport authority meetings with a lot of feedback, no echoing cancellation capabilities. So, yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Cindy, do you have questions for us at this point?
No, I really don't. I appreciate your support and constantly working with us, and it's a privilege to serve you. Please know that I'm always here if anyone has any questions, and we look forward to working with you, whatever the next sort of chapter in all this brings.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you,
Thank
Cindy.
you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're switching subjects to the strategic management plan.
We
I
have,
just see that Teresa's come on.
yes.
I'm
Hello,
here.
Teresa.
Hi.
Get your best shot.
Okay. I had a PowerPoint. I don't know if you all have copies of that.
I haven't seen the PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's see.
Ralph or Don, can you give her sharing capability?
I believe it's already there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me see here.
There you go.
Does that work?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not the best at this. I should have one of my assistants here. So we're going to talk about implementing your strategic management plan. We provided the full report with some recommendations and strategies. I want to talk about some of the, I guess, areas where you can start to implement and take some of those action steps and create some benefit with minimal cost to the borough, and gain your community buy-in and support and provide some quick results with low-hanging fruit, if you will. When we look at goal 1 and increasing your revenues, your action step 1 was to create some incentives. And this is looking at adopting the LERTA program, the tax abatement program, and tailoring that program to meet your goals. So if your goal is attracting some market rate housing, maybe you look at adopting a 7-year program for residential, and which gives you the incentive or the edge, if you will, over other market rate housing that is being built within the region. Jumpstart the redevelopment, adopting the 5-year program, 100% each. So there's, you can structure a LERTA program based on what your desires are and what you want to create and attract within the borough. You know, we talked about within the plan, there were a number of examples. Some offer a 3-year program, straight tax abatement. It's up to you on what you want. Well, working with the school district and the county commissioners and developing a program that creates enough incentive for developers to begin to build market rate housing and some commercial development. You do have, you know, the Bellefonte waterfront that is repositioning and starting to look at financing now that we are post-COVID. And then you also have the Bellefonte Works that's looking at redeveloping that site as well. To create a LERTA program, your first step would to be create a task force. So that would include members from the borough, the county, and the school district. And to be successful, we know that the school district actually has the higher millage rate. So getting them involved would be, in part of this program, will be the key to your success.
So Teresa, just a real quick question.
Mhm.
In order to do a LERTA abatement program, the school district, the county, and the borough all have to agree to the exact same program and get the exact same?
You don't. I mean, the school district could come in at a smaller percentage. That's what the purpose of the task force is to negotiate. We've seen programs, especially with tax increment financing, where the school district does come in at a different rate than the other taxing bodies. The goal, though, is for them to provide enough so that it makes sense to a developer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we've developed LERTA programs. Quakertown adopted a program after our revitalization planning process. And they actually had a number of developments that occurred because of that LERTA program. You know, I talked last time and before, and everyone always hears my story about Carnegie, but when we adopted the LERTA program in Carnegie, we had 2 corporate centers. We had a number of our upper floors in our commercial district that were revitalized because of the LERTA program. And then we also had a 260 townhouse development that located in the borough. And the LERTA program was actually the piece that was the go, no-go decision for them. So it was really successful. And as I said, Carnegie is similar to Bellefonte, where you have the structure in place. You have a lot of, you have the retail, you have the services in place. You are located in a wonderful environment where you've got Spring Creek and some of the other aesthetics, that attracting market rate housing isn't going to be a difficult lift. But creating some of these programs, again, it can be that deciding factor for a developer in their pro forma to have it make sense to move forward. Any other questions on the LERTA? The other, I guess, easier, if you will, pieces to the implementation, some of the priority first steps, is supplementing your police operations. And that's to begin to monitor the PCCD. And you may already be doing this, but there are programs out there with PCCD where it's the body worn cameras and other initiatives. And then the grants.gov, you know, with some of the new money coming out with the recovery plan, keeping your eye on grants.gov for some of those federal opportunities, will be important because they're pushing those out and making those available. Developing a matrix of needs and then pairing that with funding. So looking at your police department and what are the needs, and then reviewing and making sure that you're constantly, we get email updates from PCCD when they're announcing any new funding. We also get that from grants.gov when they have any new funding that's being launched or NOFA that's being released. We get an email, we look at that email to see how it compares with or complies with some of our other project needs for our clients. So signing up for those emails and monitoring when those are available, it will be key. The other action step 1E was to analyze your water and sewer system, just ensuring that not only every property is paying their fair share, but also looking at adjusting some of those rates where you've got a unit that may have 4 or 5 apartment dwellings. Are they paying the same as what a single family home, so that each unit would pay a base fee plus a consumption, just like your family home, your single family homes are paying. So looking at that, and we feel that those are 2 areas where you can generate additional revenue, is it both within your water and sewer system.
Teresa, I had on this 1B, I had one question in your report.
Okay.
And it was on page 7, and you were suggesting that we seek funds for body cameras.
Yes.
We already had the body cameras. We got
Okay.
them last year. They were given by a grant from the DA's office.
Okay.
Are you talking about possible grants for maintenance of those cameras or what?
Well, you can look at what PCCD and grants.gov will support. But when we were doing our, I think the police department interviews, I don't think you had the body worn cameras yet.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why was included in that report. But there are other, and you know, what you could do is look at some of those programs, Department of Justice programs, PCCD, get a better understanding of what they do fund. And there may be areas that your police department has wanted to expand on or to include within their services, but you don't have the financial resources in order to do that. Looking at those programs and understanding what they fund, I think is important.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So for long-term planning is developing your capital improvement plan. And that starts with inventorying your assets, looking at replacement schedules, identifying your costs, and then along with that, and it's always looking at what are some of those state and federal resources that could help you help fund those so that it lessens the financial burden on the borough. Along with that, and probably maybe in conjunction with that, is looking at your technology upgrades. So it's identifying the software that we cited within your plan, looking at what modules would work for the borough in order to develop a cost estimate, and then seek funding through the DCD stamp for implementation. What you can do with that, those modules can actually help you develop your capital improvements plan. So rather than doing an inventory where you're doing it by paper and manually, you're inserting that information into the software program. And then that also helps with scheduling with the police department, and it helps to maintain your activity within your public works department. We feel that that is probably one area, and that would be a 50% match. But looking at that as a top priority that may cost you money, but will save you money in the long run. And then ensuring the police department recommendations are adopted. There were a number of policy recommendations formally adopting a code of ethics, and then developing and adopting a cash management policy. And those are some of your internal operations and action steps that we feel should be one of your initial implementations. Now, with your environmental sustainability, goal 4, it's developing that building rehab program. And we have had conversations with Keystone communities to discuss using Keystone and matching that with the home program, which can be done. Home is federal and Keystone is state. But looking at both a commercial rehab and a residential rehabilitation program. Your 3 funding sources are the home, the KCP, and then FAIR. And FAIR, I think, will probably open up for proposals soon. Your first step would be to develop your guidelines and your application form. The second step would be to apply for funding, and then third would be to market and implement the program. You probably already know of property owners that are looking to improve the exterior of their commercial buildings, but within your homes, you can identify, you can either make it borough-wide, or I think to have a greater impact is to do targeted areas at a time, understand your need and what the housing rehab program can do. And you saw this within the report. It not only improves the outside and the aesthetic nature of the homes, but it also improves HVAC systems, plumbing, provides ADA improvements, parking improvements, lighting. So that the goal there is that you take your homes and you not only provide a better quality of life for the residents, but it also starts to improve the value of property within the borough. And those can be developed, those programs can be developed if you're using both home and KCP as match, where it is a grant to homeowners and it's a forgivable grant. So over a 5 or a 10-year period, depending on how you structure the program, the grant is forgiven, or the forgivable loan, the loan is forgiven. If it's a 10-year program, it's 10% per year. And if that home is sold within that time period, then at closing, those costs would be recouped from the sale of the property. Any questions on the housing rehab? So those are my thoughts on what you should do to implement your STAMP. Initial 2 programs that aren't going to cost you money, it will cost you time and effort, will be the housing rehab program and the LERTA program. But again, those I think provide the LERTA program provides a financial benefit that you'll see in years to come. And then the housing rehab provides an environmental benefit and a quality of life benefit for residents and commercial businesses. Any questions?
No, thank you, Teresa. The tip or the reminder just to keep an eye out for some of the funding for the police and the grant funding is a good one. I've written all that down again. We are working on policy and procedures now, so that's sort of in play. But anyhow, appreciate your input on that and very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
So Teresa, this is Randy Brackbill. Just to go back over, we had 3 meetings, I think. And when I go back to the beginning, you showed an organizational chart with names and titles, and some of the names are still not right. And I'm wondering if we're better off without names and just basically have the titles, because those names are going to continue to change you know, that's a suggestion.
Okay.
But that was one thing. And so I thought that should probably be corrected somehow. That might be the
Okay.
easier way.
Okay.
And then as far as this program goes, if we, you know, when we continue with it, I'm assuming that there's still options we can do, stay in those 4 goals that you had listed, we talked about earlier. We could change those to meet the needs that we have right now a little bit more. And then maybe something else comes up 2 years from now, we can go in and either add to it or adjust something here or there. So it's still a little bit of flexibility there for us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And as you start to implement, things will change for you. I mean, and again, implementing a LERTA program, your financial condition will change. You're going to get renewed interest in the borough. So it is a fluid document. And as changes occur within the borough, you need to look at that. Then you should, as in one of the recommendations in the plan was to meet on an annual basis, to look at the stamp, set your goals for the coming year. And then as you finish that fiscal year, look back and say, okay, what did we accomplish? What worked, what didn't work? What do we need to focus on for next year? And how have things changed?
Okay, thank you.
Since Randy brought up possible changes, I had 2 really, really tiny ones in part 4.
Okay.
On page 14 and 18, you were talking about trainings.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 places, you had PSEA instead of PSAB.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're not dealing with the Education Association. Like I said, it was minor.
Okay. Anything else?
Teresa, this is Don. I wanted to apologize for the confusion and thank you for being so adaptable this evening.
Sure. Wow, you guys adapted for me after my COVID shot, or my vaccine. So I appreciated that too. It really knocked me out.
Appreciate your hard work.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it. We love Bellefonte.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I will get a cleaned up copy. Do you want me to PDF it into one document with a table of contents?
It might be more manageable to keep it in the sections.
Okay.
We can put it together or send it out together, but just with the megabyte limitations, might be better to keep it smaller.
Okay. Okay.
All righty. Thank you again, Teresa. We won't
Thank
keep you any
you.
longer. Take care.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So we have 12 minutes before the thing starts. So do we just want to turn off CNET and come back at 7:30?
You can. Why don't you make a quick announcement, Joanne? I think there was a little bit of confusion on when people are going to speak. That's in your regular meeting after 7:30, correct?
Correct. What we'll do is call the meeting to order, have a roll call, pledge of allegiance. Then we're going to introduce the new management team for the Bellefonte wastewater treatment plant. Do a short consent agenda. I think that all should take maybe 5 minutes total. And then at that point, we'll open up the public hearing on the short-term rental regulations. And Don, at that point in time, will be our timekeeper, and he has a big old sign saying stop.
I think he's going to use his voice.
Well, maybe it's his voice, whatever it is.
I was going to say, I guess I better make it very quick here.
We did talk about it.
So everybody has a maximum of 3 minutes to speak.
Even my advisor.
Yeah, she might do quite well. Until then, you can all,
I have a question for you. I'm sorry. My name's Donald. I want to be able to speak. Are we doing some sort of sign up to be able to talk? Or how do we go and submit for that?
the deadline was at noon today unless Ralph is willing to allow additional people in, and that would, you'd have to be a tax-paying member of Bellefonte Borough.
Well, that's very easy. I have 2 houses in Bellefonte Borough.
Okay. Ralph, it's up to you.
I'm perfectly fine. I think there's approximately 10 people who notified us about speaking. We do have a time limit of 3 minutes per person. We can put you in at the end, so just be patient with us when the time comes. You know,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm out in California, so I didn't know that there was an earlier sign up time. But
Not a
thank you.
problem. We can work with you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So we will see each other again in about 10 minutes.
Same Zoom link, right?
Yes, we're not changing. And for the public's purpose, but by state law, we cannot actually start the regular meeting until the scheduled time, which is 7:30, which is why we're taking this break.
you sort of fall into a category that nobody knows exactly what that means.
I call a lot of people chief. I've been politically incorrect for a long time.
It'll change, I'm sure.
Doubt it.
Webster's defines it as a leader or ruler of people or a clan.
There you go. Now you know, Mike. Just learned something.
Without being an
Oh my God.
enlisted
I have-
officer.
I'm not politically incorrect after all. Huh.
No. As I say, the Navy and the Marines, they're not dealing with Native Americans at all. It's in their world. Chief is a very noted title. Do not mess with the chief.
It doesn't make them
Probably,
immune.
I
Doesn't
probably
make them
pissed
immune.
off somebody.
No. I think if an army depends on its sergeants, that means the Marine Corps and the Navy depends on its chiefs.
Got that right.
I think we just need Joanne back. We get this
Yeah.
puppy rolling.
Get this party started.
Let's just start.
There she is.
I'd like to call the May 17th Bellefonte Borough Council meeting to order. First of all, we'll have a pledge of allegiance, a moment of silence, and then a roll call.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. See what, not sure what that is on the screen. Anyway, Mr. Prendergast,
Here.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
I'm here.
Ms. Walker is excused. Mr. Brackville. I know he's here. He might be muted.
He raised his hand.
Okay.
I am here.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Cleaton,
Here.
Ms. Lombowski,
Present.
Ms. Abbott,
Here.
Mr. Eaton,
Here.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mayor Wilson.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the introduction of our new management team at the Bellefonte wastewater treatment plant. Ralph, do you want to do that for us?
Sure. I invited Frank Knoll and Julie Brooks to this meeting. They're here. I see Julie. I don't see Frank. There's a gazillion boxes in front of us. But anyway, they're in place at the wastewater treatment plant. We're very proud that they're there. Looking forward to their management efforts. And I just wanted to introduce you to this new team that is in place there. And we're happy to keep you in the loop as we move forward and disseminate information and vice versa. Either way, we're happy to show how effective these people can be for us.
Welcome aboard, Julie, Frank.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Julie and Frank. Take care.
I'd
Would
like
you
to,
all-
if I could say one thing real quick, please. We have so many people on tonight. If you are not speaking, please put yourself on mute, or there's background noise. So put yourself on mute if you're not speaking, please. Thank you.
Julie and Frank, do you have anything you would like to say?
No, just very excited to start with the borough.
Thank you.
Frank?
Great.
Okay, well then moving on then.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. First item on agenda is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it, Clayton.
Eden and Clayton. Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do you have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
Brack Bill.
second.
And who was
I'll
this?
second it.
Brack Bill and Prendergast. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. Okay, now we're moving on to the public agenda. We have a list of people who signed up, and I was given the list late this afternoon, and I'm just going to go down the list in the order that they were given to me. You each have 3 minutes. Don Holderman, who should be up on the first screen somewhere, has his signs to tell you when you'll need to wrap up and finish what you're having to say. Thank you. First on is Bruce Cifelli.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. You all know my story, so I thought I'd try something a little bit different. My name is Bruce, and I stink at baseball. Well, at least I used to. For my entire Little League career, I only got one hit, and it was when I closed my eyes and swung. I was so surprised that I forgot to run, and by the time I got to first base, I was out. I don't know what that says about my dad, but since my dad was the coach and the team did pretty well, I have to guess it was me. But I was lucky. I am privileged to have grown up in a loving, supportive family with parents that taught me never to give up. My motor skills and dexterity finally developed, and by the time I reached high school, I could finally hold my own in gym class. And being left-handed, I took full advantage of the short right field bleachers. Nothing unethical, just using the resources around me and what God has blessed me with. Fast forward several years and a couple pounds added to the belly, life decided to throw me a bunch of curveballs, and after numerous strikeouts, I had had enough. I decided to make my investment in my future and take full advantage of the world around me. I educated myself by studying the Airbnb playbook, made a sizable investment in summer training camps, and went to work in the batting cages, spending my weekends bringing the clubhouse up to code. When I was called up to the big leagues, I was pumped and I swore I'd take full advantage of the opportunity. After a couple of foul balls, I hit a line drive right back to the pitcher, but at least I made contact. My second at bat, I knew what to expect, and when I got my pitch, I cranked that sucker. I mean, I nailed it. Again, I was so surprised I forgot to run. I made it to first safely, but it could have been a triple. I learned from this and swore next time I would raise the rates on graduation weekend. After that, I really settled in, laying off bad pitches, and I'm better at picking out ugly runners, understanding when to wait for the real winners. The ones that not only going to make me look good, but make my fans really cheer. Sure, I've had some big games, including where I hit home runs, but one thing I never forgot is how I got here, with the support of my family and fans in the stands. The neighbors bought into my plan. I realized as long as they're happy, I'm happy. I'm doing well. The clubhouse looks better with every game, and the team seems to be running itself. Now, as I get older, I look forward to managing the team. Not only do I enjoy winning, but there's nothing better than when the entire ballpark cheers. I think management is the highest rank I will go, but I hope some executives buy into my plan and help me expand the league. Let's invite other teams to develop and teach them how to play the correct way. If they cheat, they're out. But I think we have something big to offer. With responsible business plan, the players can field a healthy team with successful salaries. The local businesses can sell concessions to the visitors, and the borough can collect from ticket sales. Instead of folding my team of players with this ordinance, how about we come up with a reasonable set of guiding rules and expand the league to include a reasonable amount of responsible team players? So what do you say? Who wants to play ball? I'm all in. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Diana Crable, you're next.
I don't have a fun story and I don't do this public talking well, but I did write something down that I would like to share. My husband and I, we have been homeowners here in Bellefonte for about 30 years. We have rented out the other half of our house for about 25 years. My note, I'm just going to read my letter. I fully understand the importance of having regulations regarding these rentals. However, I do feel that the recent talks that I've been hearing about homeowners of the short-term rentals and the people staying in these rentals should not be a blanket representation of how it affects our community. As owners, as rental property owners here in Bellefonte, we've had, like I said, we've done long-term and we've done short-term. The nice thing we like about doing the short-term rentals is we bring people, and we've had many people from around the world. And it's pretty exciting and it's fun and it's very, very rewarding. The permitted use to allow short-term rentals not only brings in income to the families within the borough, but also income to the community as a whole. The visitors are exploring the town and taking in the sights and taste of the area we are so proud to call home. Removing this opportunity does not remove the risk of strangers, but it removes the possibility of gaining new admirers of our flourishing town. We have the opportunity to share with our guests that not only is Bellefonte filled with a beautiful park, waterfront, and Victorian homes, but we have much to do downtown. We recommend that they visit the quaint boutiques, the restaurants, antique stores, and one of my favorites, always a jewelry store. I always recommend, go buy a piece of jewelry to take back with you. We value our businesses and we take advantage of the opportunity to help support them. In regards to safety, our neighbors are like family to us. They've been our neighbors for years. They're like grandparents to our children. We would certainly never, ever do anything that would bring any harm to them or any risks to our community. We go to great lengths to ensure our guests respect our neighborhood and adhere to the borough rules. We've always been very conscientious of who stays in our home, and we are careful to only accept guests who have been rated highly by previous hosts. Throughout the pandemic, people have been limited traveling and exploring. We're proud to provide a safe space to help our community economically recuperate from this pandemic, but also to help others fall in love with the town that we have from the same view that we have on our town. That's all. I just think I'm sure there are people out there who aren't following the rules and doing things correctly. And I think I perfectly understand having guidelines for that. But I also think it's very, very important for everybody in the community to understand the positive aspects of the short-term rentals and what it does for the community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Diana.
You're welcome.
Gary Hoover, you're next.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. There we go. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. And I'll keep my remarks brief because I did submit written comments. I just think it's important for us to realize the benefit of the tourism economy and what it brings to Bellefonte. There's a huge ripple out from that. A lot of businesses and jobs depend on that tourist income. So things that discourage tourism and people staying within the borough need to be looked at very, very carefully. And I sincerely believe that the best way to meet everyone's needs is to look at regulations that sanction actual bad behavior and encourage renters to carefully monitor their properties and tenants so that the tenants can have the quiet, reasonably quiet enjoyment of their rentals. But if you put prescriptions in place that try to preempt that by tightly regulating the lodging options within Bellefonte, I think it's going to cost our local economy and businesses and employers a lot more than is going to be benefited by that. So you'll end up with actually a cure that could be worse than the disease itself. So, go after things that are not complex, that are simple to the point, that concentrate on sanctioning bad behavior and encouraging responsible monitoring of properties. Maybe things like, I think the point system was great, because that puts everybody on notice that unless things are done to make sure that there are no nuisances or misdemeanors, that you could lose your right to do short-term rentals. Maybe beefing up something like a bond or something like that, or like a, I'm drawing a blank on what you call it, but basically it's money you put down that guarantees good behavior, and you lose it if you don't behave properly. So those kinds of things that really put it to the repair or the prevention of bad behavior on an anecdotal basis, not as a system-wide prescription, would be in everyone's best interest. And you would have the benefit of that without the collateral damage it would do to Bellefonte's very important tourism and indirectly tourism-related economy. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. George Powell, you're next.
My name is George Powell, and I own rental properties in the Bellefonte Borough and State College and Phillipsburg. And for over the last 10 years, I've also owned and operated short-term rental properties. I'd like to first state that I have no problem with making sure the properties are up to the rental property code, such as smoke detectors and fire extinguisher, et cetera. All my rentals are inspected and do meet the rental codes. It seems the ordinance aims to assure short-term rentals do not become a nuisance, which is fine. But the ordinance seems to imply that short-term rentals in residential areas are or would become nuisances. I would like to see the data collected locally on short-term rentals being a nuisance. With over 15 properties operating in the Bellefonte area, how many have been reported as nuisances and what are the hard numbers? An informed decision can't be made without the actual incidences that are reported and categorized as nuisances. These properties are housing guests and tourists that range anywhere from 5 to 25 days a month. My best guess is probably over 2,000 rental days per year coming into Bellefonte. I'd like to see the police reports that are officially logged about these properties so we can make an educated decision. You can look to the horror stories of the early days that cite parties and party houses, but short-term rental companies and the hosts don't want any part of hosting parties. Because of that, there are safeguards now in place to make sure the guests cannot book houses for parties. House rules that the owner make always state that no parties are allowed. There's no upside to hosting these parties, and keep in mind, these are our homes and properties. We are very proud of them. The grass is cut, the landscaping is tended to, snow is removed, and you look on the website, you will see all the beautiful homes and properties that are being listed. This is a business that's crept into almost every community across the nation. The first reaction is to severely hinder its growth. This crucial mistake is an uneducated, knee-jerk reaction to a very creative and rewarding business model that attracts travelers, tourists, and family and friends to our area. I think the short-term rental business is here to stay, and if supported and nurtured, can bring tax dollars, consumer dollars to the area and provide those who wish to participate a source of income. It is part of a new sharing economy, such as Uber, that has developed and progressed with technology, and it will continue to grow and evolve and refine itself to meet societal needs. While I feel having some transparency in who is participating in safety issues are a valid point, I feel that the ordinance as written is extremely limiting and seems to aim to eradicate much of the short-term rental business from the borough. I believe it is written without much understanding of the business, and its real impact in the borough seems unfair. Having tourists, family, friends, and travelers stay in a home is not a problem or a hardship on any way, in my opinion, and experience.
Time is up, Mr. Powell.
Thank you.
Helen DeFilippis, did I pronounce that right?
DeFilippis or DeFilippis, yes, thank you. I just want to echo what Diana and Gary and George have said, and then I also want to request in looking at an ordinance or looking at regulations that we look at progress. We look at progress for Bellefonte, because as we've heard in the meeting so far and the earlier speakers, people love Bellefonte. They love coming here. They love visiting. There are a lot of people that don't want to stay in a hotel, and I'm concerned and worried that an ordinance as it is written now will delay progress for Bellefonte. It will delay diversity and inclusion for Bellefonte and send us back a number of years. My husband already submitted a letter, and I would just request that you consider that when having the work group come up with an ordinance that can be for all people, not just maybe established bed and breakfasts or other established realtors who rent. As George said, and as other people said, there are some benefits to regulations, but the regulations as written are a hindrance to the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Jake Fisher, you're next.
So I want to echo what George was saying about, I would definitely like to see the published nuisance reports, just because I think that everyone here understands that we have to live, or at least a vast majority of us that own the house that we're also doing short-term rentals out, we have to live in the houses with our neighbors. So, you know, if everyone's like me, I mean, I take great care to talk to my neighbors, make sure that they know when I'm renting, let me know if they have any problems, make things right if they do say something's wrong, which we've never actually had any guests, because Airbnb has a fairly good system with weeding out people that have caused problems in the past. So that's something that I think will be really important for everyone to see before, you know, like Helen was saying, to have a knee-jerk reaction of just taking this away from everybody, because we do understand the responsibility we have to the community and our neighbors. The other points I want to address. So I mean, this is a big income for families that are renting their houses out. That, you know, over the past few years, we've started to build into our budget that, you know, it's a significant income. But not only just to us, it's an income to the businesses in Bellefonte, the restaurants and the local shops that are opening up. They likely would not see a lot of the people that are coming here if we ended these short-term rentals, because a lot of the people that are renting from us would just go to State College or go somewhere else. They wouldn't come into Bellefonte. So not only are those businesses losing money, but we're also losing the tax revenue from not only our rentals, but also all the extra dollars that are spent in the community. And then also for families like me, during this pandemic, we've made sure to go out to the different restaurants here, try once a week, and having this additional income is something that allows us to do that and stay on top of that to try to help out as much as possible. And, you know, we're talking about this ordinance during a tremendous economic uncertain period. You know, we don't know what the economy is going to do. We're hearing about inflation and people have lost their jobs and all of that. And we're talking about taking more money out of the community. I can't understand why we're doing that. And I'll end with just kind of one thing that I saw from one thing that my family did for graduation. We rented our house out and we wanted to make sure that the people that stayed here went to a restaurant in Bellefonte. So we had them pick a restaurant. They chose Governor's Pub. I called Governor's. I made a reservation for them for their dinner. Once they were there, I paid for their dinner and made sure that they had a good time. So, you know, taking all of that away from the community, I think is a drastic misstep. And again, going back to what Helen said, I think it's just a very quick knee-jerk reaction that we can avoid if we really start talking about maybe some finer tuned regulations if that was actually necessary. Thank you.
Jake. Caitlin Quick.
Hi, everyone. I'm a Bellefonte homeowner living in the community, and I have lived most of my life in Center County. And I just want to share my success that I've had with Airbnb so far. So I accept reservations based on excellent reviews because I also care about the condition of my home. And many of my guests are staying in the area because of Penn State events like graduation, move in, move out, sporting events like football. And so far, I've had no noise complaints or other issues. I would like to highlight that my property generates local hotel tax, and I live in this community and also spend money in it. For example, just last week, Remodelers Workshop was out fixing my door. So I know they're a local company, and that's money, you know, from the Airbnb going back into the local economy. I currently work at Penn State, but I hope to eventually use this revenue to fund my own business in the future. And I'm concerned that the proposed ordinance would not apply to hotels, motels, or bed and breakfasts. This makes me think that the revenue generated will be going to large corporations rather than flowing back through the local economy from the Airbnbs. I think a more reasonable approach should be considered to allow community members to continue with short-term rentals because I believe that they benefit Bellefonte. That's all I have. Thank you.
Caitlin. Matt Crater.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to voice actually strong support for the short-term rental ordinance draft as presented to the public following the May 3rd Borough Council meeting. My family and I have had a very negative experience living next to a property being operated as a short-term rental. As a father of 2 young children, it's very unsettling to have different people constantly come and go and never really knowing who is in our neighborhood. Last summer, from the end of June through to September, every 2 to 5 days, a different group of people would show up. And on too many occasions, these people were simply there to have a pool party, complete with loud music, yelling, foul language, and general ruckus emanating from the property at all hours of the day and into the night, not only on weekends, but during the week as well. These people never intended on taking in anything that our community or the surrounding area has to offer, as they never left. They stayed at the property the entire time. We have had to contact one of the owners of the property several times, call the borough police, and in some cases simply decide to leave our home for a few days just to get a break. When contacting the owner, things sometimes settle down with the current tenants, but the pattern would simply repeat itself when new people arrived. It took 2 summers of complaints and the emergence of a draft short-term rental ordinance for the owners to do anything about a speaker system that was so loud it could be heard inside our home over the volume of our television. Only time will tell if the changes improve this situation. We have been told that tenants are advised of rules and regulations regarding the behavior, but with owners not on site or not in the area, these rules may well not exist. It falls on neighbors to make complaints or tell the owner what is occurring on their property. There is no accountability on their part, and it's absurd that it's on our shoulders to enforce those rules and notify the owner of issues. We're simply sick and tired of making complaints and putting up with the nuisance. I believe that what has been proposed is in line with existing borough zoning, the existing borough zoning ordinance, most notably sections 575-15 parts A and E that define the intent of a residentially zoned area, specifically R1, to provide for a variety of low density residential, not business, residential opportunities, and to meet minimum standards of health and safety by protecting against hazards and nuisances. The key points from these subsections are the fact that residential areas are intended to be just that, residential, not businesses that cater to short-term transient guests as if a hotel or pool resort exists in the middle of a neighborhood. Additionally, section 575-17 states that only uses listed shall be permitted. Nowhere listed as primary or accessory uses is the practice of short-term rentals, especially in the case where a property is not owner-occupied. Therefore, an argument can be made that these properties should not be permitted to operate even now in a residential area without specific language existing to prohibit them. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak at today's meeting, to describe our experience, and to express our support for the short-term rental ordinance as you consider its adoption.
Thank you, Matt. Nancy Perkins.
I just sent in a letter. I hadn't planned to speak. In listening to everybody, it seems like we need more study. And I guess in listening to all the people who are in favor of having short-term rentals, I don't understand why they wouldn't become bed and breakfasts. And that would have certain stipulations and regulations in place that would alleviate some of the problems that Mr. Crater was talking about. And I think I would like to be, more informed about this. I think there are things we need to study. We need to know what the impact is going to be on the police department. If, they would get more calls, but I don't even know how many. Someone mentioned there are 15 people in the borough that have short-term rentals. Is that correct? I don't know. But anyway, I hadn't planned to speak, but I did send a letter and that had more detail in it. So I'd like to be informed going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Truman Ebby. I guess we'll move on then to Donald Anspach.
You're muted, Dawn.
Hi, sorry about that. Hi, my name's Don Anspaugh. I have 3 houses in the borough of Bellefonte. You know, I'm concerned about the limitations being put on the Airbnbs because mostly we bring tourists into Bellefonte and contribute consumer dollars to the town. We support all the restaurants and unique shops in the downtown area. And since there's no hotels in the Bellefonte area, we supply a valued resource for commerce in the town. We've been inspected and have followed all of the permit requirements that have been required and have a very high standard for our guests. We look at prior rentals that the guests have put in on Airbnb and make sure that we're bringing in quality people into the town. We have managers available to be able to consult whenever there are any problems on a property, and we immediately react to those. With the current COVID conditions, people do prefer to be in a closed environment, not shared with other guests. We don't really have any opportunities for motels or hotels in Bellefonte, with the exception of the bed and breakfasts that currently exist. I'd suggest that the conditions and inspections and permits for Airbnb and bed and breakfast be the same. We need and exceed all borough conditions for operations, and it would be a denial of commerce really in curtailing our operations. So yeah, we have been booked pretty consistently throughout the year during the Penn State games and also during the summer to be able to bring families in. At the end of COVID, we had a lot of bookings coming in for families that just wanted to get away. So I am in support of whatever conditions may come up in regard to the ordinance, but I'm not in favor of curtailing our operations. Thank you.
We can't hear you, Joanne.
Got to put the boom down. Sorry about that. I said that was the last set of comments that we had under the short-term rental regulations. So we will be closing the public hearing on short-term rental regulations. What will happen now is the written comments and these public oral comments will go to Gina Thompson, our zoning officer, who is in the process of setting up a review committee made up of residents, bed and breakfast, short-term rental people, and I understand probably some downtown business people to go over this and try to craft something that would be amenable to the majority. So we'll now move on to the rest of the agenda for the evening. Next item is oral comments on any other items on the agenda other than the short-term rental regulations. Are there any? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to written communications. Ralph, do you want to go through them?
Sure. First one is a notice from the Center County Planning Office in regard to Walker Township interested in doing a zoning map amendment. From my figuring on their dates that were in the letter, it looks like we would have to provide comments by the 20th or 21st of May. So we don't have very much time to do that, but it's there. Because we're part of the Nittany Valley Comprehensive Plan, we have the ability to comment on any zoning map changes.
Any comments from council members?
Where can we see that map?
If you look at the letter, there's details in the letter about the tax parcel. You could contact the planning office. I didn't see the map. The letter describes the map change in verbiage and paragraphs, the particular parcel, the tax parcel number, and what is actually happening. What is currently zoned and what they're proposing to zone it as. So all that's in the 2-page letter from the county planning office.
And how does it affect us anyway?
It does not affect us. It's just that we have the ability to comment if we would like to And because we're part of the comprehensive plan that we agreed to or was part of since 2004, we can comment if we would like to. We generally do not. Having said all that, there's a very similar letter that from the planning office also in regard to a zoning map change in Spring Township. I think that letter came out shortly after the main packet did, or maybe with the main packet. But so there's two letters about the two map changes, two different townships. I just want you to be aware of it, but we generally do not comment because it's not in the borough.
Any other questions? Then keep going, Ralph.
Sure. There is a letter, just an idea about either getting a wheeled trolley for the train tracks or a trail or walkway from the Axeman, former Ciro property there into the borough along the match factory over across by the cidery and so on. It's just some, ideas. I know we're looking at how to improve foot traffic and motorist traffic coming into the borough. So I just wanted to keep that on the radar for you.
This might be put in conjunction with the on the road trolley that I've been talking about since I got on council. I think the two of them together might make a really great tourist attraction.
Yes. Next item.
Would the historical railroad people be interested in it?
I did forward a letter to Gary, who's with us, Mr. Hoover. And, it's not as easy as it sounds, is what the reply was. Although it be considered, it's complicated with the train, people getting on and getting off, but it's there for their consideration as well.
Okay.
Good to go.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
Next item is just a proposed House bill at the state level in regard to allowing borough councils to have quorums, even through the remote Zoom or what have you, remote attendance, even if the quorum is not in the room like we are doing now. The difference is we're operating under the state's emergency order. Once that order ends, there'll need to be a legislative fix for allowing a meeting to happen without a quorum in the room.
Before we have discussion, John, I'd like to have a motion to send a letter of support for HB 1318.
I was raising my hand. I was raising my hand to make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. To send a letter.
Okay, it's just FYI, I looked it up this afternoon. It's HB 1318. And that was referred to the local government committee. So Eden's making the motion.
I'll second it.
Prendergast. Discussion?
Actually, I have a.
Yeah, go ahead, Deb.
How would this affect executive sessions?
Executive sessions would not be affected at all because executive sessions are outside of the quorum because for real estate, legal, safety, personnel issues. If it's one of those four areas that needs to be remain confidential, we could do it totally by Zoom or we could do it in person. It doesn't matter. It's only for the meetings that should allow for public act. Yes,
public meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, John.
The reason I advocate or made the motion to support the letter, I would have to say the last 10 years of my working life, basically instead of wasting time on the road, going to DC, the West Coast, or up the East Coast, we basically were doing everything by video conference, basically saving a significant amount of time, and you were making it possible for people who may be occupied in other areas, other places, or at their place of work, they can still participate in the meeting. So I look at it as something that makes these meetings really more conducive to younger people attending the meetings who may not be able to physically be in Bellefonte at a given time of the meeting. So that's my point. That's my background for recommending it.
Mike, I saw your hand raised.
Goes for old farts like me too.
No way, Mike. You have no excuse.
Randy?
Yeah, when I looked at this resolution, it's basically talking about having a quorum. It's not saying we're all going to do virtual meetings the rest of our lives as long as we're on council or any other meeting. I think they work where they work, but I don't think the intent is to stay virtual. I think the intent is that they'll allow a quorum for somebody who needs to join virtually for whatever reason. Maybe they're out, maybe they're on vacation, maybe just out of town, or like they said, maybe they're working, but they're able to join a meeting. And that's where I think this is going. And that's what I would support for this. But we need to get back to our in-person meetings. I think that's important.
I agree, Randy. And I think I read it the same way you did.
So for the public's view, the way the state law currently reads is that if we have a council of 9. If we do not have 5 council members in the room during when we don't have emergency orders, we have to shut down the meeting and go home, even if we have the other 4 members on the phone or on Zoom. This would allow us to continue the business of the borough if we should have that kind of situation come up. So we would be able to move more smoothly going forward. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Thank you. Next item is also from the Center County Planning Office. It's in regard to the 2021 Hazard Mitigation Plan. There's a draft resolution included, and we gave that resolution the number 0517-2021, and asking your approval of that resolution.
Okay, we need a motion to approve resolution 0517-2021.
I'll make that motion.
Clayton and Brackbill. Discussion? Seeing none?
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll just mention that many municipalities are adopting this resolution this week. I think most of the COG municipalities are. It's something that the county needs support on, and I think it's a good resolution.
And if we don't pass this here at the borough, if we have a flood or other kind of hazard, and we don't have this mitigation plan in place, we don't get federal funding.
That's right.
I'm against it then.
So any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Thank you. The next letter is from Bell Properties, and they're looking for Borough Council to write a letter of support for some ADA waivers at a property at 401 West High Street. The property was going to be commercially used, and that would normally require access for ADA improvements. And the sidewalk is relatively narrow in that area. The property owner has been to the HARB board. The HARB supports the letter and has their own letter. And it was suggested that a letter comes from the governing body, Bellefonte Borough Council, as well as from the HARB.
Have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Brackbill.
I'll second Habashi.
Discussion?
So what they're asking for is relief from having to do ADA type repairs to the house or the commercial property that's going to be?
To the exterior.
Exterior.
The entrance. They would have to build, based on my reading, approximately a 25-foot ramp, 25-foot in length ramp, plus alter the historic doorway into the building to comply. And as I said, if you're familiar, this property is to the west of the current Von Fatto's location. And the sidewalk is relatively narrow in that area. And if the ramp was built, it would tentatively or relatively make it difficult for somebody in a wheelchair to get through on the sidewalk that is remaining after a ramp would go in.
Do they have an alternative access?
I don't think they looked at that. There's only one main door in the front of the building. You can't get to the sides of the buildings because the buildings butt up against each other. And the only body that can offer a waiver is at the state level, Department of Labor and Industry.
How can a commercial property only have one means of access or egress?
Mike, I suppose somebody could get out the back door. Getting in the front door, there's only one door to get in.
And they come in the back?
Hey, we're getting into a discussion here that not part of the motion.
Okay. I'd like to say something. This is an issue that by passing such a motion, we could be liable down the road for endorsing alleged discrimination against people with disabilities. When the ADA was passed over 30 years ago, there was a federal window in which these types of changes did not need to be made. That window closed over 10 years ago, according to Walt Schneider at the HARB meeting. State College was sued because codes enforcement allowed a restaurant to pass code without a ramp into the vegan restaurant on Beaver Avenue. The state law may say that they can request a waiver to the handicap accommodation. There are two issues here. The first is that this is a federal, not state law, and the state can't make something less strict than what the federal law is. So I don't believe that the clause that the Bell is relying on can actually waive the ADA requirement. The second is that in talking to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission in the past about another ADA issue, I understand that when there is a hardship, there needs to be a strong effort to make a reasonable alternative when these types of conflicts appear. As Ralph said, he doesn't think that effort has yet been made. I suggest rather than endorsing this letter and thus putting the borough in a potentially liable situation, that Bell talked to both the PHRC's Education and Outreach Division, which deals with these kinds of issues, and the PHMC, the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission, to jointly work out some other form of accommodation rather than immediately attempting to waive federal law.
I would just add the HARB recommended unanimously to approve a letter. They're going to send their letter. The state, has waived these impractical situations before. When we did the sidewalks in town, we have this town full of hills, and you have to have no more than a 2% grade coming out of it on a sidewalk. And some properties, that's impossible to meet. So, and the waivers have been granted here in town prior in the past. And it's simply a request by this to send in a waiver by the state. If the state grants it, so be it. But I believe, it would be practical to support this property as historic features of the front building that are trying to be preserved.
Yes, Jog.
I have to agree with Ralph in his comments about there are exceptions to those rules when they can't be met. And it seems like HARB has researched this and made a recommendation to write their letter. I know that, I was going to say the same thing as Ralph. There are streets that it's impossible to meet the grade that's required. And I think this business is in that same condition. We just went through listening to 20 odd people about how we want to encourage businesses in Bellefonte. And I think this owner is taking the proper steps to follow the guidelines as best that he can or she can. So I'm going to support the letter.
So just FYI, he came to one meeting and they raised these similar concerns about the ADA. He withdrew his request. He asked one question and then came back to the next meeting, did not make, and there had been recommendations for him to call the PHRC. That did not happen. That's why I'm suggesting we delay this until after he's had those conversations. And then if it's still an issue, then maybe, but at this point, I think it's premature. Any other comments?
Well, I'd be curious as to what Harb's thinking is on this then.
I read the notes, maybe I misunderstood. Didn't the Harb recommend unanimously that the letter from Harb be sent to Harrisburg?
That was at the second meeting after they denied it the first time round, and they'd asked him to go and look at some alternatives. I had suggested he check with PHRC, and that didn't happen. So I don't think he's exhausted his efforts at this point.
I'm answering
But Harb did make the recommendation in support.
Yes,
So it doesn't matter what you say, Joanne. Harb
Fine.
has.
But we're having a vote. We can do that. We can each vote as we desire and believe is the best thing for the borough.
Yes.
Other comments? Seeing none? All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Aye.
So 8 yeses, 1 opposed.
No, 7 yeses, 1
Seven,
opposed.
sorry. All right, so let me get caught back up here. Next item, request for approval of vendors' use of sidewalk, parking, music, 10 to 3, and the business called Buy a Thread. They're having a grand opening July 17th, 2021.
I'm glad we did the announcement. Mary is actually, this was talked about in the streets committee, so we're going to delay the actual vote until we get down to streets.
Alrighty.
Time out, Ralph. Ralph,
Yes.
can you let Sean in? His computer went down. He wants to get on phone. Can you let Sean back into the meeting?
Oh, yes, sure. Sorry about that.
Right. He's trying to get in by phone.
Okay, I got it. I saw his name here. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So everybody's clear. We'll hold that item for streets. Next item is a thank you letter from the Center County Library and Historical Museum. They received their annual contribution from the borough, and again, they're saying thank you. Next item is just an update of Bellefonte suffrage markers. There's a list of where these markers are at in their progress to be installed. It's there. Again, as you know, there's efforts to have one installed here in the borough.
So the one that we had was denied. Nancy Perkins is the person that's been working with it. She's on here. Can you give us any more information, Nancy, about what's going on or what's recommended?
I think they were waiting for the borough to approve the spot where this would be located. And I think there was discussion about having it in front of the Bellefonte Art Museum because that's borough property. Is that true, Ralph?
It is our property. It does belong to the borough. I know we've had a conversation some time ago, and I think that property, that list came up, or that location came up, as well as some others. But I don't believe we've had a formal request for that location. I think some of the discussion was the size of the sign being placed in this right of way of the sidewalk. The one that we saw 6 months or so ago was relatively large and wide and would easily conflict with traffic, trucks, deliveries, pedestrians possibly. So I think maybe it's time to have another meeting and look at options.
Right. And I think maybe we'll get on the phone with Robin
Okay.
to hash out some of the details. So we can do that.
Okay, so maybe Ralph, you could put on a list to have Nancy set up for a meeting to have this discussion.
Sure. Okay, next item. Very nice letter in regard to Officer Nidek's very courteous offerings on the job. She helped a person out. It's very self-explanatory. If you look at the note from the person, just want to say thank you to Officer Nidek for her efforts. Very well done. Going on here, we just a note, we just had a public hearing on taking oral comment on the short-term rental draft ordinance. So we made some notes here. The oral comments are recorded by CNET. The written comments, whether they came in by email or letter, everything's going to be compiled. Our staff person, Gina Thompson, will compile everything and send it out. We will be putting together a stakeholder group that we believe will try our best to be balanced in who represents who and how that's put together. We're looking at having the stakeholder group develop some modifications that would come back to Borough Council to consider. And then there'd be ideally another public hearing on an improved or possibly changed draft. We'll try to keep things moving as fast as we can in this process, but I just wanted to go over the process that we have in mind that we think is advisable at this time. A couple other notes that are not on the agenda, but I have written down here. There is a letter from the PA Mayors Association looking for nominations for Mayor of the Year, or if you're interested in nominating our mayor. They're due by June 25th. And lastly, I have some somewhat sad news, bad news. Ann Walker, who has been ill, and we did get an email from her today. She is going to resign from council, effective today at this meeting.
Yeah.
So council will have to go to work on filling that vacancy.
I called Ann after Ralph, Don, and I received that letter, and she asked me if it was possible to read her letter of resignation into the record.
Sure.
Okay. Subsequent to my recent illness, I've had to make the difficult choice to step down from my position with Bellefonte Borough Council. I feel this is the best way to handle my own medical issues and those of my immediate family. Personal matters demand my full attention, and I can't serve the borough to my best capacity under the circumstances. Please understand that I didn't want to make this decision, but I see this as the best step for me to take. I appreciate everyone's time and patience with me as I learned about local government, and I will continue to support the borough in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
You will be missed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear.
Take care of yourself, Ann.
We will miss you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is all the written communications we have.
Then moving on, Mayor, it's your turn.
Hey, okay, thank you. There are two items that I wanted to talk about. I think you may have seen the parking revenue report and breakdown, which I thought was very interesting. Percentages of people that are using cash as opposed to credit cards at this point. It still looks like cash is the overwhelming winner. But that we're early in the process of getting people to sort of convert. And then the animal report was on there as well. Not too much to talk about with that. Sean's going to tell us a little bit more about the new piece of equipment that we have and what capabilities that'll bring to the police department for some traffic control.
Okay.
Sean?
Okay, as Dawn and Ralph know, for about, I would say the last 10 years, about 10 years ago, the borough, Dawn, Ralph and I were discussing with the mayor then about getting a radar message board. Very similar to the one that State College Borough operates in Lamont. I guess that's College Township. So about 6 months ago, one of my officers who also knows that, the desire and the need for this, this radar message board was, a little, we had a great desire to get it, but the funding was not there. They're very costly, very expensive. So he asked me if he could pursue a grant. So I gave Officer Luce the go ahead. In his spare time, he put together the grant package and was able to, with letters of support from Senator Corman, Representative Benninghoff, the school district, St. John's, and by Ralph and Dawn penning a letter for the Bellefonte Borough Council, all went a long way for us getting this grant, actually. So the company is All Traffic Solutions. They're out of Virginia, and the actual equipment is being made in State College, Pennsylvania. It's about 2 foot by 2 foot board that it'll show you your speed and a message that if you're going too fast, it'll slow down. We're going to retrofit it with red and blue flashing strobe lights that will indicate if you are going above the speed limit. I don't know if anyone's ever driven through one of those, but they're very effective in slowing you down. But however, it does, it goes a step beyond that. We can access it remotely from our office. We can turn it off, turn it on. It collects data. It'll generate reports with that data, and it'll help us in several different ways to create reports, to give to council and to the community, identifying the problem areas, prioritizing our enforcement efforts, to maximizing our manpower, and to the total goal is to calm the traffic, calming and enhancement of the safety. So, and the studies that I've read, and I can share them with you, that this type of equipment is very effective in itself, and just whenever someone sees their digital readout of their speed, they slow down. But however, we can also follow up with that with a mode called stealth mode, where we can set it out there and it'll record without people knowing it. So we can get a good indication of where the real problem areas are in town and deploy to those locations. So when we have getting this, we're currently seeking additional funding in other areas we want to have 3 of these up and running by the end of the year. So we're part way to our second one already.
Very good. Yeah, the nice thing about it is it's mobile. So, like you said, you can move it around and we can identify the problem areas. We already know pretty much where they are, but we can quantify that. So thank you very much, Thon. Thank Officer Luce. Thank you for his efforts in finding the grant that was able to fund that for us. That's the end of my report. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. So, Chief, I just want to bring this up to let you know, there is some frustration about loud barking dogs in the borough. And I think from what I've seen in the neighborhood write-ups that I've seen online, that there's a family that has 6 dogs, there's another family that has 3 dogs, and they're all pretty close around the same area. And the dogs just seem to be left out to bark, and they've complained to police, I'm told. And when I look back on the reports that I'm looking at tonight, it says barking dogs NA, and it's on both reports. So I don't know whether they're mixed in with something else or not, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there are concerns out there that they're barking early in the morning. And I know it's tough to be, at that, at that time, at that minute, but it's something that I think should be discussed with an owner at some point if you know it's a regular routine for them.
Do you know,
Right.
do you know the locate, you know the
You can
location?
No, I don't know location, and I responded in that manner that, you know, not knowing where exactly they're living, it's going to be hard to pinpoint where things need to be. But, you know,
Right.
basically what they're saying, they were told to just continue to keep calling, but they continue to keep calling, but nobody really comes back to address it. That's
Okay.
what they're
Yeah, I'd want to reach into that further, look into it. When was this, Randy?
I just saw that today, actually.
Okay. I haven't seen that, but I will look into it. I'll look into all the barking dog complaints we've had in the last month and look into it and try to get an answer for you.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the report doesn't show that there's any, so I don't know. I don't.
Okay. Well,
I can only go with what I'm reading.
if it was called into 911, there'll be a record of it.
Okay.
So if it's a 911 call, there will be a record, a permanent record of it. So I'll find out.
Okay. I just wanted to get it out there.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
Randy. Anybody
Anything
else?
Well,
Okay.
thank you. That's the end of my report.
Moving on to my report. In your packet is an FAQ and a sheet on the American Rescue Plan. Several of the council members sat in on our White House briefing that included the U.S. Department of Treasury and the White House Director of COVID-19 programs. The first half of our funding from the Fed should be arriving sometime this week, and the state may be adding some additional rules on the usage of these funds beyond what the federal government outlined last week. Once we receive that information, the Finance Committee will review all of these rules and make recommendations for how we will disperse these funds. That's my report. Any questions? Seeing none. Moving on to building and property. Since Ann isn't here, we've just scheduled a meeting for this Thursday, May 20th, with the Building and Property Committee to receive the fleet management report from Enterprise Rentals. Do you have anything else addition to add on that, Ralph? Okay. Anything else for building and property? Seeing none. Finance and government. Deb?
You're muted, Deb.
Thank you. In addition to the White House Q&A sheet, there's also in your packet a fact sheet on the coronavirus recovery funds. The PSAB webinar on this subject will be Thursday at noon for anybody who's interested in watching. I will be there. We need to schedule a meeting for next week sometime for the Finance Committee. And if you can include Sergeant Brower with that information, he'd like to present some information about a new vehicle that needs to be purchased or leased. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Deb? Seeing none.
Deb, yeah,
Go
I did. Is that meeting at council chambers or is it virtual?
It will be virtual.
Is it,
You mean the PSAB or the
PSAB?
I think you can just register for that online. It's free. It's Thursday at noon.
Okay.
Randy, it's at the same time as our streets committee meeting.
Oh, I can go 2 screens.
Likely, we can get a recording too, probably. Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get the recording and the handouts.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Parks and Rec, Melissa?
Last week, our Park and Rec Committee had a meeting. There was 2 things up for discussion. A representative from the CCR Mental Health Awareness Pop-Up Table event in Talleyrand Park came. We approved that meeting. I don't think that there's anything needed by council. It was already previously approved at our last meeting. And then we received information from the Pinewood Derby that is to be held in Governor's Park. And that was, I believe, approved over email. They gave us, they did not attend the meeting, but they submitted an outline of their event and it looked good to go. So that's all we have.
Any questions for Melissa? Seeing none, thank you, Melissa. Human Resources, John.
Okay, I'm going to do the second item. We have Wednesday at noon, we will be holding our human resources meeting. And that'll be relative to outstanding issues relative to the non-uniform contract negotiations. And I'm going to turn it over to Ralph for an update on vacancies.
And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn. I asked Dawn to prepare a little report for this.
Okay.
Just a couple items, John. We, as everyone knows, we had 2 vacancy announcements that were out. One was for the refuse department. We were looking to hire 2 people. We have hired 1, and the individual will start Monday, May 24th. And we're still interviewing for the second vacancy in that department. The parking and animal control enforcement officer, as you know, Lucas Shear was accepted into the police academy, and he starts on July 1st. So Chief Weaver, myself, and Ralph interviewed some folks, and we made a selection there. The person will start on June 7th. That gives us a full month to get him up to speed before Lucas goes out the door. So that's where we are as of today.
Okay.
Great.
And I think that's everything then, Joanne, for human resources.
I just have one additional thing. That meetings on Wednesday begins the start of regularly scheduled human resource meetings every other Wednesday.
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. Any other things or questions for human resources? Seeing none, move on to safety. Randy.
Hey, I attended the COG public safety meeting on May 11th. I had a report in the packet. It just highlight a couple things here that they talked about the resolution that we passed here earlier for the county, and just letting people know that Mr. Snyder, the codes director, announced that the 20 codes for 2022 will be coming out, and there'll be training for contractors, engineers, and architects starting up at some point. So those are in there. But I think the full report, I think, were sent out today, late today. The other thing is the SAFER grant, a marketing phase update. We're getting things going now, trying to select a marketer for or a vendor for during the marketing for the fire department for recruitment and retention. So Don Holderman, Nick Caputi, Bellefonte Fire Chief Gary Lauren, myself reviewed fire volunteer marketing and recruitment proposals. Nick has been tasked to contact references of the vendors selected by the committee. And then once the reference checks are completed, this committee will meet again to discuss a final selection that will then be recommended to council at the June 7th meeting for approval. And that's all I have for safety.
Okay, great. Any questions for Randy? Okay, water and sanitation, Doug?
Thank you, Joanne. Not a whole lot, just a reminder, this is Riff Raff week, Monday through Friday. That occurs on your normal refuge pickup day. I think you all know the guidelines of what we don't want out at the curb: batteries, paint, lead paint, tires, etc. If you have them in boxes, don't set the boxes out if it's raining, because the boxes are destroyed, and our personnel, it's very difficult for them to lift up soggy boxes. So if it would happen to rain, it looks pretty clear this week. I think we'll be in good shape. Please cover it with a tarp until the folks get around to pick it up. I didn't, Ralph, did you get any feedback of how our yard sale went this weekend? It appeared to me like the town was pretty busy and we had a lot of participants. I didn't see any issues. I don't know, Chief Weaver, did you have any problems in regard to the town yard sale that
No.
we need to be aware of?
None that I'm aware of, no issues.
Okay.
Same here.
Okay, thanks. Also, you might be able to touch a little bit more on this, Ralph, the robocalls that we have been receiving. I'm signed up for it. Maybe we need to make another announcement that residents can sign up for that. And if you would
Yeah.
like to comment on that, that would help
Well,
me out.
if for some reason you are not getting the robocalls, which would be a call, it's an automatic computer generated call that says like the refuse schedule is changing, like you're coming Memorial Day week, Monday the 31st, we will have a change in the refuse schedule for Monday pickup. Anyway, if you're not getting those calls and would like to get those calls, the easiest way to do this is to call the borough office at area code 814-355-1501. Tell the person that picks up the phone, you would like to be added to the list to get these robocalls. We don't do any marketing. It's not about sales or anything. It's just about changes to a schedule. And we're trying to get the word out through that means of communication. You could also go to our website and fill out a form, but the easiest way, the quickest way is call the borough office during business hours and tell them that you'd like to be added to the list.
That extension is extension 210, according to the notes in our packet.
Yeah, that works as well, but whoever answers the phone, they'll
Okay.
take your information.
Okay. On that, a question that I just thought of, have we had any relief? Have we made any dent in the grass collection bins reassigning? Have we had any turnover? Have any become more available? Does anybody know? Or,
I think there's only been minimal changes that I'm aware of.
okay.
I know there were around 800 locations they pick up, so it's a lot to do in one day.
Right.
I'm not, maybe some minor one or two or a handful of changes is my understanding.
Okay. Just a reminder that we do have capacity, and when one becomes available, we are on the waiting list to be reassigned a new brush and grass can. Okay, and the other item is the Musser Lane Recycle Center. We're still on the COVID hours, which are Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Friday, let's see, 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. on Friday, and then Saturdays, 8 a.m. until 11:45 a.m. That completes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions for Doug? Seeing none, we'll move on to streets. Mary?
So we, a couple of things that came up in meetings, DBI and the Bellefonte Y are discussing the possibility of doing a cornhole tournament as a fundraiser during one of the Friday in the Fonts. They had talked about wanting to have it in the parking lot behind the Y, the north lot, and they wanted to close off the entire lot for that. We discussed some other options, like maybe we could just during the Friday in the Font, where they're already closing off part of Howard, I guess, and they're going to have a stage of music. So they said it would be nice to have that going on in that space. So we discussed, maybe they could just close off a corridor between where the music is going to be and the Y and have it there. Or we discussed maybe they would have it instead at the during the Friday in the Font that's located down by the park. And wouldn't the park be a nice place to have a cornhole tournament rather than a hot parking lot? And so I don't think any decisions were made or any motions need to be made at that point, but it's that's something that's in discussion, I think, and you'll probably hear more about that in the coming meetings. As was discussed earlier, Emily, the owner of Buy a Thread, is interested in having several vendors, including a flower truck outside her shop for her grand opening, which is Saturday, July 17th from 10 to 3. There's a letter from her in the packet. We suggested that maybe she should discuss the flower cart idea with Wood Rings, just trying to head off any potential conflicts of interest. So this was all presented to us, and I mean, you saw the letter, but in the meeting, this was presented to us by Jenny Lynn from DBI, and so the Streets Committee would like permission to approve Emily's proposal after she comes to the Streets Committee meeting in a upcoming session and talks to us about it.
So motion by Abbott. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Eaton. Discussion?
Is this conditional approval?
Yes.
Pending her next visit with the Streets Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? So this does not, she had also asked to put the flower truck in this week for Friday in front. Because we haven't talked to her, we said that particular one was out. She has to come to us before we clear everything. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Okay, so I guess the big item is, you saw in your packet the picture with the proposed design changes to the diamond area. At this point, the alterations would mainly involve short-term fixes, including painted line, installation of delineators, and landscaping. Thank you. Landscaping in the areas that are currently now those kind of those parking spots on either side of High Street there. And so we would like to consider, I would like you guys to consider the motion to approve these changes and to move forward to submitting them to PennDOT for approval.
I'll
Motion.
second that motion.
Abbott and Johnson. Discussion?
Question, the Face Center is right there. Oh, am I muted?
No, you're not. Now you are.
All right, the Face Center there, they have a drop off for their donations. Do you have anything to bulb that out or something so that somebody can pull off the road?
No, no, they're gonna have to use probably the back entrance for a drop off or something like that.
Where is the back entrance?
It's in the back of the building off the alley.
It's where GC Murphy's used to take all their shipments through the back door. There's a loading area, used to be, when GC Murphy's store was there, in Cherry Lane.
Yes.
Or they can pull in front, maybe where the Elks are, depending on where the side, well, below the crosswalk that's projected to be moved. Yeah. There's going to be some adjustments there for deliveries.
No problem, I just wondered.
So just for the public's purpose, the crosswalk that is right at the edge of the diamond will be removed and moved down further. Yeah, right there. PennDOT has told us that that is a safer crossing than it is where it currently is, because when people come around the corner and they start to speed up, they don't have time to slow down if someone should be in that crosswalk where it's at right now. And then the other one where the arrow is going up, it's going to be straightened out to shorten the distance between the two sides of the street.
I have a question. How many parking spaces are we going to lose with this adjustment?
7.
How many?
7.
7.
Oh man, you got to be kidding me.
Mayor, we've looked at this very carefully.
I know you have.
And
get ready to listen to
and we're looking. You have, if you're looking for safety, this is the safest scenario that we can come up with. And there is some sacrifices that have to be made. I don't know what else to say. There is quite a potential here for this area if we initiate these preliminary safety recommendations. So
I think it'll look great. I'm just telling you that there's going to be a lot of yanging about removing more parking spaces. You know, every time we do something, we decrease the parking spaces.
Like Doug said, and I have to agree with him, this is all temporary. These are going to be painted lines and delineators, which are those flapping poles, so that we can see if this actually helps calm things down and reduces some of the safety issues. If this works, we were also thinking of, I think there was an article that was sent out. We sent out, it was called Street Side Dining. We were thinking maybe using this area to make mini parklets for the borough if it became permanent, with tables and people can come and stand and eat, to help with the restaurants, to have them have some outdoor dining in the downtown area.
So it would become a community dining area, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not saying it won't look nice. It's going to look great. But once again, we're eliminating more parking spaces. Create 7 someplace else.
Melissa?
Can I ask about the bus stop that is near the Y and if this affects that?
But we'll have to talk to CATA to have it moved.
Well, not only that, Madam President and Melissa, the buses aren't running anymore, and it doesn't look as though they're going to be coming back. And we did discuss moving that bus stop if they do come back. So it was in the conversation, and the consensus at this moment was CATA is working so well that it's unlikely at this time that the bus service will return. Is that a fair statement, Joanne?
Partially. At the public hearing, there were about half of the people that spoke wanted the bus service to continue. The current plan from CATA is that there will be no bus service come August. So they're supposed to have another public hearing next week, I think, to talk about what alternatives. At that point, we'll know more about whether there actually will be bus service into Bellefonte or not.
My question is, if they reduce the bus service, do we get a discount on
We're getting off track again.
True.
Sorry, Mike.
You're right though, Randy.
So I support
worms.
I support what we're trying to do here with safety. I think, you know, we've had too many incidents, too many close calls that we don't know about for people crossing the street. I think this makes it safer for those folks, and it's something that could continue in other intersections as well. This is a test area because it seems to be the heaviest for people crossing the streets, and I think it will slow traffic down, and that's the purpose of it, to calm traffic down, take wider turns so that they get a better view of who's in the crosswalk and when people are in the crosswalk. And still the pedestrians are going to have to look both ways. just like your parents told you when you were growing up. And before you step out onto the street, everybody's responsible for themselves. We're trying to make it as safe as we can by narrowing the streets a little bit so a pedestrian is not on the street very long to make the crossing.
Any other
I like the
comments?
plan.
I like the plan, but I am concerned about losing that much parking, especially since there's so little in the direct downtown. But I think it should help a lot with the initiatives that we're trying to push forward, but I am concerned with how downtown merchants will feel about it.
I have to agree with you, Melissa, but those parking spaces have always been a safety hazard. We've lived with them.
I agree. I've almost been hit, and especially near the Kreider, that I think is the worst of the two sides. But I'm just concerned.
I understand. We all understand that. The other thing I don't think we brought to the attention was, as I understand it, we are still going forward with the raised side crosswalks with the piano. That is not happening at this time?
Not right now, no.
Okay, that is phase 2, we're thinking?
Once
at
we
some
find
point?
out if this works or not, we decided not to go ahead with that because they're rather expensive. And
Sure.
if we were to do this and then find out this doesn't work, then and we have to rip
We're
them
stuck
up,
with them.
then we're stuck with
Right.
them. So
Right,
this is
okay.
that was so they'll
Okay.
just be repainted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving and submitting this to PennDOT for approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Okay, so speaking of parking, there is a motion that the borough approve 10 designated spaces for rent by the Center County government for their employees at $50 a month per space, with 7 of those spaces in the north parking lot and 3 of those spaces in the south parking lot.
Okay, motion to approve those 10 spaces by Abbott. Who's going to second it?
I'll second Brackbill.
Brackbill. Okay, discussion? Seeing none? Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead,
want to
Doug.
thank Ralph and Dawn and the Streets Committee. We had very productive meetings, especially Ralph and Dawn with Center County folks. So I appreciate our borough staff, our management working with the county, working this parking situation out. Like everything else, it's a moving target. So if we see that adjustments need to be made, we're willing to work with the county on that. So I appreciate our committee and our borough administration with their work, working with Center County government.
Thank you, Doug. Anybody else comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Okay, and then ending with a fun one. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, DBI did a Chalk the Walk event where different local businesses or families or individuals rented, for lack of a better, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not ending. Well, okay, sorry. There's another one after this that's not so much fun. So we'll finish the fun one. Okay, I skipped one. But yeah, so Chalk the Walk is coming back. They're gonna, again, have the way that people can reserve a sidewalk square ahead of time, but they'll also have the ability for people to spur of the moment, get their own sidewalk square. And so the dates for this event is starting at 4 p.m. on July 30th, which is a Friday, one of the Fridays in the font, and then the next day on Saturday, going all day that day on the 31st as well. So this is a motion to approve the DBI Talk the Walk event on July 30th and 31st.
I'll make that motion.
I think, was that Eden or Cleaton?
I'm going to say it was
interchangeable.
Eden.
Okay, we'll take Eden.
I'm not sure I'm happy with that, Deb.
Just a couple of consonants, come on.
Discussion?
This event is a lot of fun, and I would like to invite all of council to bring out your kids or your grandkids and try it out. It's a lot of fun, and people walking around in the downtown are really stoked just to watch you do even a terrible job. They will compliment you to no end. So please come out.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Okay, so then the one last one that I skipped. So we have a motion, we went around and around about what's the best way to do this, about ending or not the curbside parking spots that are available in front of the local restaurants as restrictions ease and then hopefully eventually end. And we kind of thought maybe the best way to do this was to do it gradually. So some of the restaurants have more than one spot in front of the restaurant for curbside pickup. And so the motion is to limit the designated spots to just one per restaurant starting June 1st, which is when the restrictions start to ease, and then eliminate those spots altogether starting after Labor Day.
Good, Abbott. Who will second?
I'll second that.
Prendergast? Discussion? Yes, Randy.
Yeah, I'm mixed on this one. I understand why we did it. It was for COVID, but it's something that's been being requested by businesses for years. And taking away those that are going to lose parking spaces are going to be those who didn't have them before COVID. We do have restaurants that do have pickup spaces. Some have two, some have one, some have more. So I think it's too soon. I know we agreed to taking one and then doing one later on, but again, I'm still stating that these curbside pickups are still important to the restaurants downtown, and maybe any other business that maybe want the same thing, but where they could share the space if it's available for pickups only. And so that's where I'm at with it. I'm just not sure how solid I am with this one.
I agree with you, Randy, but I have heard from at least one business owner that was complaining about the restaurants having their free spaces, and the owners or the employees parking in front of their shops, so that they didn't have their customers didn't have any place to go.
If it's their employees, that's on them, not on us.
No, the employees of the restaurant.
Same thing.
Was the restaurant owner complaining it was somebody else?
No, it was another shop owner.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Their discussion? Yes, Deb.
We modify it so that you're reducing the restaurants that have two spaces now, reduce it to one and carry that through the end of the year.
You can make that as a motion to amend.
I'll make that motion to amend it.
Okay, amend by Brackbill. We need a second.
I'll second it, Habosky.
Bosky. Okay. So now what we're discussing is changing the removal from Labor Day to December 31st.
Run it through the free parking that we offer during the holiday season, and then
That's
January 1st.
Okay. So January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the same thing. Just you said end of year, so I said December 31st.
But so it coincides with the end of the free holiday parking, and then
Okay.
Makes sense.
presumably we will be back to a normal world then.
Okay. Through holiday.
Normal.
Call the question.
Abby normal.
Any other comments? Okay, so our first vote will be on the amendment. All in favor of changing the removal of all from Labor Day through the end of the free holiday parking, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, so now the main motion is to reduce the free parking spaces to one space effective June 1st, and with removal of all those free curbside parkings after the Christmas holiday. Please, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
I have one question that maybe I should have asked before we voted, but it goes along with the previous conversation that we had about streets and the changes to the diamond. State Burger will be losing their pickup parking with that change. What will happen to them?
We talked about relocating it to the front since it's just a pickup. It's not necessarily, a metered area. So they'll have probably some other type of signage.
We were thinking that maybe the Andy's restaurant and State Burger could share a space there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Maybe there could be a communal spot for both of them on that street, and maybe to go with Randy's point previously, maybe we can combine some of these communal spots. I'm thinking Governor's Pub and Happy Wraps, maybe, although that's a difficult intersection down there, maybe there's something else we can do communally.
Good idea.
Yeah,
But
maybe what we could.
That's how we were thinking of resolving that, Melissa.
All right, thank you for your hard work on that. I know it was a lot. It must have been a lot of discussion.
Yeah. So maybe with your area down at the end of between Spring and Water, if there are a couple of businesses that want to talk about that, maybe they can come to the Streets Committee and we can have that discussion then. Anything else, Mary?
That's it.
Okay.
Can I just throw something out there? It's sort of streets related. The CATA public hearing on the proposed changes to start in August is Tuesday, June 8th at 6 o'clock. It will be a Zoom meeting. And I think CATA's already decided what they're going to do, but it's worth a shot. If you've got an opinion, get it out there.
Okay.
But right now, it looks like there will be no more fixed route service in Bellefonte. It will just be CATA Go and only to Walmart. So if you're going into town, you have to connect with the H bus, the mall bus.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
I know. But we have to keep after them.
So do you have the link, or have they sent out the link yet?
They will send out the link, and I'll let you know when it comes out.
Could we put the link on the website once it comes so the public has access?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll move on to energy and environmental conservation.
That's a quick one tonight. We have a committee meeting scheduled. Well, we're setting up a schedule for sometime next week. We're going to review the energy management report and the solar report.
Any questions for Mike? Just a real quick addition. The first ICLEI meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. Mary will be attending.
Noon at 2.
2, whatever. I can't attend it because it's election day, so.
It's at 2.
Okay. Okay. So she's attending it on behalf of the Environment Committee. Okay, moving on to the Office of Community Affairs.
Okay, to try to make this quick as well. Ms. Thompson has a memo in the packet, has several action items. First of all, there's a request from Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission for to award a grant for a statewide project. They're looking for Bellefonte's involvement in that. We would be a pass-through for their grant project, and we would contribute with information that we have and benefit being a partner in this project.
So I need a motion to propose and request funding from the State Historic Preservation Office to have them conduct a study of the economic impacts of local preservation programs in Bellefonte as one of several CLG communities in Pennsylvania, with the Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation acting as a third-party administrator.
I will make that motion, Madam President.
Thank
I
you,
will
Doug.
second that, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Prendergast. Any discussion?
Thanks for your recommendation, Don Holderman. Let's vote.
So seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Next action item is a land development plan at 341 West Lamb Street, Bellefonte Mart. They went through planning. Planning Commission is recommending approval. There was a condition about checking into the erosion and sedimentation control plan, whether it was required or not. The feedback from the County Conservation District is that it is not required based on the square footage of the improvement.
Okay. So need a motion to approve the land development plans for the Bellefonte Mart addition.
Make
I'll
the
make
motion.
that.
Brockville.
I'll second it. Prendergast.
Brockville and Prendergast. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Next items are the certificates of appropriateness. There's several projects. 431 East Curtin Street, removal of a door to install window, remove some concrete steps. 447 East Curtin Street, roof replacement. 109 South Thomas Street, window replacement. Those are the items we're being recommended from HARB
Okay.
for certificate.
So we need a motion to approve 431 East Curtin Street, which is the removal of a side door to install a window that matches the other windows on the house, and the removal of concrete steps. 447 to approve replacing the roof with the charcoal colored architectural shingles, and 109 South Thomas to replace 5 windows with double hung composite wood windows that are the same as those on the second floor, with the front window sashes and float glass to be maintained on site in the event that future owners want to restore the windows. That was the condition on that last one.
I'll make that motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second it, Clayton.
Prendergast and Clayton. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So same sign, so moved.
We're into the nuisance code report. That's like their weeds, grass, trash cans left out during the week and so on. The report is there. It's the April's report. There is a note I want to bring to your attention in regard to vegetation, this type of thing that is planted between the curb and the sidewalk. It's in the street right away. I read over it. I'm recommending that this issue be taken up and looked at by the streets committee since it's in the street right away.
Is this the flower issue that we had several
Yes.
years ago? Because
Yes,
I thought we changed the ordinance to allow that.
Mr. Brooks pointed out, a conflict in the ordinance in his notes that needs to be looked at.
Okay. Streets and flowers in the right of way. Okay.
I have a question about the project that's going on West Bishop and Spring Street. Wasn't part of the plan there to do plantings between the sidewalk and the curbing?
There is some additional plantings or trees. Grass is fine. It's the height of the vegetation that is in question. And I think Mr. Brooks is looking for clarification because you're to be able to traverse those areas, whether that's
Right.
part of the area, the total area. This is why I'm recommending it be looked at.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah.
send this on over to streets. And then Harry, you can let us know more details because I know right when I got on council, this was a big issue. And I thought we had actually had resolved it, but apparently we haven't. So Harry, we'll get you the next streets committee meeting and we can look at this.
Okay.
And then the next item is the sidewalk report. These are properties that have defective sidewalks. And as per the ordinance, council approves the list. And then the staff sends notices out to the property owners.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Prendergast and Eaton. Discussion?
Will the letter include recommendations or suggestions for the residents
We
as far as somebody
provide,
to do the work?
well, yes, we have a list. We don't endorse anyone. We have a list of people who contractors have said to put them on the list. So we do have that goes out. Yes.
Okay.
We don't recommend anybody.
Any other questions or discussion?
I just want to say I love this report. The nerd in me loves all these details. This is fantastic. And I wish that our rental property report was this detailed.
I think that's a kudu for you, Harry.
It's what I've always done.
Good.
I love it.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Keep up the good work,
Oh.
Harry.
All opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Special committee reports. I think this is you, Randy.
Or Doug.
That's Doug.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can do MPO. It's in your packet, the summary. The ones that have the most impact on Bellefonte would be the 64 and 550. We old folks call it the Wine Zion. That area is going to be reconstructed. Also, another big project is out at Pine Grove Mills. I forget the route numbers. And then, of
26
course,
and something. 26 and 45, isn't it?
I beg your pardon?
26 and 45.
I think that's it, yeah. That's going to be reconstructed. That's another big project. It's slated to begin. The other one, of course, is the high-speed interchange, and they're working on the Jacksonville Road exit. So that will have an effect on Bellefonte and traffic on Jacksonville Road. It's pretty much a benign meeting, just informative. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to bring them forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can answer it. I'm not sure if anybody here can answer, but when I was reading the report,
Sure.
there was a section talk about eliminating Bellefonte as an urban area. I wondered, how does that affect us? Do we become part of the State College Metropolitan Statistical Area? Or does this change funding coming to the borough from the state and federal governments? And what are the other potential implications?
It would affect funding. When Tom Zilla commented on it, he was confident, or he thought maybe his best projection was we wouldn't change at this moment. There was one area, and I'm thinking it's over near Moshannon or Phillipsburg, that might be affected. I can't recall what it was, but we're hoping that we remain the same as we are now. Yes, they are. That is a concern, Joanne. I think it went from 50,000 to 100,000, something like that. on the basis of funding and that classification. But Tom is hopeful that we will remain the same.
Is there something that we could do to help make sure that it doesn't affect us negatively?
Change the census numbers, maybe we could do that. I don't know the answer to that question, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I know it's a concern for the center region, but Tom is hopeful that we're not going to have a change. That's the best I can tell you right now.
Okay. Maybe what we can do is have Ralph or Don check into what the possible implications are, and can get back with some better information.
That's fine with me.
Thank you, Doug. Any other questions on the MPO report or any other special committee reports? Seeing none, Ralph, it's your turn.
I did submit a written report. It's there for your review. I just caught a few highlights. You know, we've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and hopefully that comes to an end. But regardless, what we found is we spend a lot of time scheduling meetings, which are moving targets. And I'm recommending that we go to implementing a standing meeting time for all council committees. Some of you have done that. It's worked I think, very well. So I'm recommending that we all go to that. As mentioned, you know, I think one of the other committees just went to it. HR just went to it. So that's a recommendation.
Do we need a motion to do that?
It would be helpful. That helps us, you know, set some things in motion. So yes,
Okay.
I feel good if the majority approve that.
Okay,
I'll make that motion, Joanne.
Okay, Brack Bill. So this is a motion to implement standing meeting times for all council meetings, and that if, and Johnson, and if a meeting isn't needed, it can be canceled.
Correct.
Good idea. I'll second it.
We have, Doug already did.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
That's okay.
Good work.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
And then I would like to try to implement some best meeting management practices. I just think, you know, we sometimes we get off target and so on, that type of thing. There's a lot of techniques to manage a good meeting, keep things moving, so people like yourselves don't burn out and so on. And I just want to pinpoint, our one committee is called Finance and Government Performance. I think that would be a good committee to work with myself and Dawn to look at some best management practices and come back with some recommendations as far as running meetings, operating, managing the meetings, and that type of thing.
Sure, I don't see a problem with that.
All right. Cool.
I do have one question though. In the stamp meeting earlier, one of the recommendations was to do a council retreat. And
Yeah.
when you're looking at the your report and their report, we're suggesting that retreat happen in June or July.
Well,
so that in terms of getting all the different kinds of things that we need to talk about, this might be a good place to talk about committee structure, some of the other things. So if we could at the next meeting come up with some tentative scheduling and try to figure out how we can do this without violating the sunshine law, I'd really appreciate it.
I'm with you 100%, Joanne. You know, I mentioned this in some of my evaluations and so on, that, you know, it's just a matter of waiting till we get past COVID to set it up. I think it's going to be very valuable to do this. So we can start on some preliminary timeframes, and, you know, as long as things move in the right direction, we could probably have it sometime this summer.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ralph? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business.
Let's take a look here. In that work session, we went over the final draft of the strategic management plan, looking for council to approve that final draft.
So I need a motion to approve the stamp plan.
I'll make that motion.
Prendergast. Who
I'll
will
second. I'll second Brackbill.
Brackbill. Okay, discussion.
Oh, I think it's time that we've had a strategic plan. I'll put it that way. And you know, it looks like there's some opportunities there for Bellefonte to get involved with this and see it through. Whether it's this council or another council, you have to, you know, follow through, I guess, with it and make it a permanent fixture as part of the responsibility of council.
Agreed.
Doug?
This is a public document once we approve it?
Yes.
Okay. So if we approve it tonight, it would be posted on our website for residents to look at.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, great. Thanks.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
All right, next item. We did put in a draft of the Local Human Relations Commission ordinance. And along with that, there's a memorandum of understanding that would be in play between the Local Human Relations Commission and the state's Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission at the state level. And then how additional parties would join the local commission. So right now, the other municipalities that are looking at this are also putting the current or most recent drafts in front of their elected officials, I'll say such as State College Borough, Patton Township, Ferguson Township, Millheim Borough is looking at it. Some other municipalities are looking at it. The idea is to have it circulated, commented on, and throughout the summer, and then towards the end of summer, look at a unified time to adopt the ordinance and the associated memorandum that would go along with it. So I don't expect you to read it tonight or anything, but I'd ask all the elected officials to start looking over it. And the next meeting, we'll have it listed under old business to see if you have any questions. And we'd like to do that for a few meetings, just to try to get an understanding of your questions. And we'll keep it on the burner that way.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on then.
Thank you. Next item, just a note, our lobby has been closed since COVID came into play. And with the lowering or the dismissing of most of the restrictions as far as capacity and wearing masks and all that, the borough office, we're planning on opening up the lobby on June 1st and having our full staff here working in person as of June 1st. Right now, we're rotating to stay under the 75% capacity, but by June 1st, we will be up to 100% capacity.
Okay, any questions? Okay.
Next item, we had made some revisions to the sidewalk ordinance. We just wanted to do some light revisions to get the ordinance out and get it finished, and so that we can continue with the progress being made in that area. So we're asking council to approve the draft with the amendments, and we can consider it effective.
Joanne?
Yes?
John had his hand raised before you went to the next item.
Sorry, I missed that.
I did too. Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know. Since we haven't had a motion, we'll go back and ask your question, John, and then we can go forward.
Well, the question I was going to ask was, when we said the lobby will be open, we'll still be buzzing in visitors from the lobby area.
That's correct.
Okay, now you anticipate maintaining that as your standard security operation?
I do.
now forward?
I do, because those security issues were raised prior to COVID. And there's some, legitimate reasons for having a secure door here coming into the office. What we will do is we'll set up appointments. If someone's, struggling to pay a bill or communicate, we'll meet somebody at the door. We'll try to be very customer friendly, but yet provide some security for our staff.
Okay. Now I just wanted to clarify that, Ralph.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks, Doug, for pointing out me not seeing his hand raised. Okay, so back to the sidewalk minutes. I need a motion to approve the sidewalk ordinance with amendments.
I'll make that motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second it, Clayton.
Prendergast and Clayton. Discussion?
Very thorough.
Seeing none? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved, yay!
Thanks.
Hey, Mike, I think you need to mute your mic. We're getting some
Feedback.
strange noises
From what?
coming. I think from you, but I'm not sure.
But I mean, I don't know what.
Yep, that did it. Okay. Keep going, Ralph.
All right, well, we're done. No, we're not quite done. Sorry about the Borough newsletter. We just wanted to note that it was mailed. There's a PDF version linked on our website if anybody would like to see that copy. It has, various information about borough operations, meetings, whatnot. Very good item to have handy. So we just wanted to mention it's out and it's available on the web if you didn't get the paper copy.
Any questions? Seeing none? Moving on to new business.
New business, as you all know, CDC and Governor Wolf has changed the COVID guidelines. And so we're suggesting, and it's been mentioned this evening at least once, about going back to in-person council meetings starting at the June 7th council meeting. What we did do a straw poll. Dawn made some calls, and looks like the majority of council members would feel comfortable meeting in the room. We have a set occupancy. If we were at any time, COVID or not COVID, if we got over that occupancy, we would have to stop the meeting and relocate or set a new meeting time. So we have those numbers. Now, if somebody wanted to do a virtual type of meeting, we're recommending the old style audio where you call in, use a speakerphone. There's a lot less complications, as Cindy was trying to tell us in the work session. So, and that's how we used to do it. Until we get some microphones or something set up in our council room, I think really that's the most practical option. So, we could accommodate 4 members of council on the audio phone, speakerphone, and have 5 here, and we would be fine.
Okay, so I need a motion to return to in-person council meetings with continued masking as outlined by Governor Wolf order starting June 7th to go. The guidelines go into effect on May 31st.
I'll make the motion, Madam President.
I'll second it, Brackbill.
Johnson and Brackbill. Discussion?
There you go.
I would like to say it's nice to be moving back towards what we're sort of calling normal. We'll see. We will be requiring everybody, if we pass this motion, if they're in the chambers, to be wearing a mask the entire time, to follow the guidelines. And that part will be enforced through our local police, because they will be there. Correct?
Well, that's correct, but as of May 31st, now this is the tricky part. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask.
But Ralph, we don't know who's vaccinated,
Yes.
and we're not going to ask. So to be fair to everybody, I think it's just a good idea to require everybody that's in the room to be masked. That will make the council members and other people in the room more comfortable, because they won't know from one person to the next whether they're vaccinated or not.
I would suggest then that we stay on Zoom. I'm not sitting through a 4-hour meeting with the mask on.
Well,
and I know we can call in, but I'm just saying, until we can go back to normal, I would suggest we just stay on Zoom. That's just my suggestion.
Yeah,
I'm actually with you, Tom.
Well,
but I would go back to in person if I was required to.
you know, that might be the safest thing to do, because we don't have anything in place that would require at the local level, the council level, you know, someone to wear a mask. We never adopted anything other than a resolution. And the resolution followed what the what the governor says. The governor is saying, you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. The question is, we don't know, but the governor is saying you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated.
Well, just bring your vaccination card in.
Can we ask for vaccination cards?
You don't have to ask. I'm just saying, if you want to present it just as proof that you're vaccinated, then do it. If you don't want to, then wear a mask.
I'm asking if I'm fine with moving back into in person. Not that my opinion needs to be the premier one over everyone, but my personal feelings are I'm fine with not wearing a mask as long as everyone in that room either has a vaccination card or the sign off from their doctor saying that they don't have to have one. That's my main concern, is being in tight quarters with people who maybe do not have their vaccination.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And I'm not sure how HIPAA affects us, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we can ask.
That's my concern as well, Mike.
Like I said, you don't have to ask. People can come in and just put their card over their head, just like Karnak.
Just like playing Indian poker.
That's right, buddy.
What, I mean, what's the big secret if you're vaccinated or not?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the whole thing. I think it's getting blown way out of proportion.
Yeah.
We've been going through COVID. We've been going through COVID for a year. I've gone into Lowe's. There's people without a mask. There's people with masks. It's the same thing. Nothing's changing. If you want to wear a mask, I don't care. Wear it. If I don't want to wear it, I won't. I had my shots.
So have I.
And I survived. So I'm not ashamed to say it. But I am questioning if we're going to go back. You know, if they're taking the restrictions away, then they're taking away our ability to have a virtual meeting and qualify as a quorum if we're not in the same room.
We're checking right now. The governor's order is still in play, but there will be a period where it's going to go away, and then we need the legislative fix. But right now, we can still operate virtually unless within the next couple of weeks the order goes away. I think it's going to be renewed this Thursday, is my recollection from Alyssa. We had to do some checking on that. I think it has to be renewed, I believe, this Thursday for another 90 days.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So Ralph, are you saying that if we vote no, if we vote yes, we go in person? If we vote no, we could still continue virtually because we've still got partial emergency orders?
At least through Thursday. I will have to let you know what the governor does after Thursday.
Why don't we postpone?
The other option, Joanne, is we have the ability to have, what was it, 4 people by
Five people in the room.
5 people. So
Yeah.
you're not vaccinated, you don't stay at home and go by the phone line.
Yeah.
There's your choice.
Yeah, we could have up to 4 at home.
So am I allowed to ask everybody here who would plan to attend in person?
Vaccinated.
Huh?
I'm vaccinated.
I plan to go in person.
Oh, yeah.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'd rather not, but.
I think Melissa said she would go. But
I'm vaccinated. I just don't want the Brazilian variant because someone in the audience didn't get vaccinated. That
Yeah,
is
so-
my whole concern.
yeah, so if you want to wear a mask at the meeting, great. That's no problem.
I think it's up to each individual what they want to do and when they want to stop doing it. It's
You have the
it's no- it's
option
no
of
big
not
deal.
showing up. You can call in.
Oh, that's a fate worse than death.
It is. I hated the phone. God.
Yeah, I mean, if you could zoom in, it would be, it's not a problem, but
Listen, we were
calling
doing-
in is worthless.
We were doing really great with time tonight with this new agenda set up, and I'd hate to see it spoil now.
Yeah, me too.
Over a topic of masks.
Where's your sense of
my point
adventure,
is-
Randy?
We do phone-ins all the time. Before COVID, I participated by phone. I
Yeah,
know
they're just-
Joanne did.
They're
I
just
think
difficult.
Yeah, and I remember sitting there looking at one another, trying to figure out what was being said by the person on the phone line, and no one knew what was being said because the connection was so poor. I mean,
A better phone.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the Zoom thing
So-
has greatly
so-
spoiled us.
Call a
Here's a
question
thought.
on this thing.
Yeah, here's a thought, and then since if we vote no on this, we could continue with Zoom. If the Governor Wolf maintains partial, we would continue with Zoom. When it does, we would go back to in-person. Meanwhile, we've got the American Rescue Funds that says that we could actually might be able to use them to upgrade our speaker system so we can do what Cindy was saying earlier this evening about making so we could have the hybrid with the Zoom and everything. And I think that might be a reasonable compromise. So if that were to be so, then you would vote no on this and we would continue the Zoom until Governor finishes. And meanwhile, we could look at using those funds to upgrade the audio portion of our meeting.
that could be months.
Well,
So we'll just Zoom for months.
Called the
So-
question.
yeah. Anybody opposed to calling the question? Seeing none. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Nay.
Hey,
Nay. Okay. So,
We go virtual.
mhm.
I like being at home.
So we stay virtual.
Yeah.
We're coming down to your office the next meeting, Ralph.
You're welcome to.
Okay, is there any other new business?
That's all I have this evening.
Okay. Do we have any more public comment?
Get out and vote tomorrow.
Yes.
Mr. Eby joined late. I think he was one of the speakers. I don't know, Mr. Eby, did you want to say anything real quick? We only have a couple of seconds.
Hello, thank you for letting me in here. I was not expecting a turn to speak. I was just enjoying listening there.
Bring the antics.
I did intend to join earlier and I missed the first part of the meeting. I am a new property owner in Bellefonte and I submitted an email now with my comments. If anybody wants to read them, that's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make it.
oh, yes.
Prendergast?
I'll second it, Clayton.
Okay, Clayton. I don't see any opposition, so we are adjourned at 9:48 p.m.
Thank you.
Night,
Good night,
guys.
ladies and gentlemen.
Night.
It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
as always.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.